Yeah, Paul's done well this year. We're really happy for him, and a lot of this has overlap, as it is as dominoes, right? And so I've been in close contact with Porig down in Colorado over the last several months, several weeks, as you might imagine, regarding Danny Leiva's loan. And so when they decided to retain Danny, it opened up a spot, and Paul's definitely earned the opportunity. So really proud of him to prove again there is more than one way to do this and make it to the top team on the Sounders, and it proves our model, and it proves in terms of development, we've got a lot of the right people in the right positions.
In terms of developing a guy like Paul at a young age, will he continue to see a lot of time down there at Tacoma and continue to play with Defiance for the rest of this year, or will you see him more on the bench here?
Look, I at this point, it's now the coaches have a choice to make, right? So he just enters into the world that all the other guys on the first team roster are in, and the first team staff will work with the Defiance staff to make those decisions weekly. I tend not to get involved in those. I want these guys to be making soccer decisions. I make the roster decisions, and so Paul will earn a minute, earn two, earn three, whatever he gets. But we certainly expect the level he's shown us all year to exist. If he's called on for a Defiance match, that's another opportunity for him to prove he deserves more.
In terms of Danny Leiva being retained by Colorado, do you feel like he's somebody that they're going to want to keep around long term, or because obviously it's that then could expire and he could theoretically be back after the season's over?
Yeah,
right?
There's two ways to handle that for me. I could have asked that question. I didn't, because I don't want that to pressure or influence decisions they make in the next couple months. There's always leverage in those conversations in terms of a price of a player goes up, or price of a player goes down. So rather than put Porig or myself in that position, I left it at, hey, we have an agreement. It's your decision. We'd love to have him back, but they have a decision to make, and they wanted to retain him, which we felt probably offered more potential minutes for him. So we'll get into that conversation at the end of the year. But I mean, as of now, Danny's with us for next season, and we're not unhappy about that.
So signing Paul Rothrock, any other news in terms of this transfer window to give, or you guys feel like you're set for the stretch here?
No, it's the same message that I've been saying, unfortunately or fortunately, or however you interpret it. Is look, we were looking for players that could come in and start, and that was the only way we were going to make a significant change at this point in the season. So we had a lot of conversations. We had more conversations than people know about. It was unfortunately an exhausting window, even though it doesn't look like it from the outside. But none of them came to fruition. So again, going back to the domino idea, the first one gets knocked down, the second one, attracting players isn't hard when you're the Sounders. Making all of those deals work in the middle of a season is really difficult from a financial standpoint in MLS. With the way we went about the season and the decisions we made earlier in the year to retain and also sign.
How important was Paul's spell earlier this season in making him the guy that you wanted to bring to the first team?
Well, we believe you've got to prove yourself within our system, and Paul's done nothing short of that over the course of the season, not only with Defiance, but in the opportunities he's received with the first team. His training sessions are really high. He's joined in more than a lot of people know. He's been involved in a ton of these first team sessions throughout the year, and he fits in well. He fits in well personality-wise, but also from a soccer perspective. So it was a pretty easy decision. There's some needs for us to have more depth in the channels, obviously. We've run thin there in the middle of the year, so positionally it made sense, personally it made sense, and then performance-wise it made sense. So it's not to say there weren't one or two other guys that were part of that debate and conversation, but Paul certainly rose to the top.
Craig, MLS roster rules is a topic, hot button topic right now, and with everything that has gone on with Miami, yeah, right? With everything down there, I'm wanting to get your take too on your thoughts on the future of MLS roster rules, where you think it's going, if you think it'll change or stay the same.
No, I think the league has done a wonderful job over its existence of evolving. I mean, the reason it's a better league today is because it's evolved, right? And it'll continue to evolve. And whether or not the impetus is an additional player, a high-profile player, world recognition with Messi right now. In my position, I'm not really bothered how the evolution happens. I just love the idea that we're in a league that refuses to stagnate, and we want to evolve. We've got a group of ownership across the league, but specifically in Seattle, that's desperate to evolve, that wants to evolve, that wants this to get bigger and better in so many ways. And so, parallel with the announcement of ownership, these are topics that are hot topics across the league, but specific, to us, it's welcomed. It's a topic we talk about all the time. Is okay, we're going to play in the rules, but the rules are going to change. Unfortunately, I'm in a position that's going to find out a couple hours before you do what those rule changes are. But look, I'm highly optimistic that ownership groups like the Sounders ownership group are pushing to evolve and help those roster rules change and honestly become more lucrative to players. And there's no secret, players sign contracts to play, and those contracts always have salaries.
So following up on that, let's start with the ownership part of it. With the new ownership news that came out today, does that and how does it change what you do at all?
Well, on my day-to-day, it doesn't change a lot.
Right.
I guess there's a few more people to ask me questions behind a closed door, which is perfectly fine. But our ownership group is rock solid, and the additional people that they're joining on are just remarkable community people. They're Seattle people, and they're Sounders people, and they make our unit stronger. They make us better as a group, and they serve to do what we've always done here, which is unify the team with the fans, with the experience, which is going to be really important down the stretch. And I couldn't be happier. I don't know how the PR team decides and when to announce these things, but this aligns with everything going on in terms of soccer. We need to pull together in the last 10 games, and we need that not to be finger pointing. We need it to be the fans and the players supporting each other. And ownership is it's the head of the dog, man. It drives this.
Going back to, sorry, go ahead, Ingo.
With that evolution in mind of the league in general, and Seattle having to adapt, is it fair to say that we could foresee in the upcoming windows some record signings in terms of money, transfer, capita, things of that nature?
All those conversations are going on right now. Look, I've not beat around the bush with you guys all year, and I'm not going to beat around the bush now. There's evolution, and this team has been together a long time. We very specifically kept this group together that won the Champions League last year on purpose, and this team is set to do something really special down the stretch. There are roster rules, there are financial rules, there's a lot of things that go into what this offseason is going to have in store, but inevitably change is on its way. It's impossible to stay the same unless the rules change overnight. And I assure you, I haven't been told the rules are changing overnight. So there will be evolution of the roster. There will be some turnover in terms of record setting and phrases like that. I always shy away from those things because it may be the cheapest free transfer that has the biggest impact on our team, or it might be a player out of contract that chooses to sign with Seattle that has the biggest impact. It's not always how much you pay for something. I always say smart money beats dumb money, and that's what our intent this offseason will be, to use our money wisely.
You talked about the evolution of the league as well. So how do you both plan and prepare for the inevitable evolution of the league in terms of those roster rules, but also plan for the current rules in place?
You have about 900 spreadsheets saved somewhere on a computer. We've got 3 or 4 different plans. At the end of the day, we know the rules. We know the rules that are set for next year. We know exactly what those financial rules are in terms of roster. That's what we've drawn up. We also have contingencies that just in case, what if $2 million in GAM was added? What if, target allocation money went up instead of down? What if the salary cap just jumps to $9 million or $10 million instead of 5 or 5 And so we have all those contingency conversations, but those are honestly just to challenge ourselves on the reality of how we're looking at our roster, the reality of how we're looking at individual players, and the reality of how we're looking at the overall fit of this team. All the way to, breaking it down to, okay, there's no names on our roster. How would we build from scratch if we were doing it today? And so all those conversations are kind of the fun soccer nerdy part of what I get to do with my group. But the reality is we live within the rules. And so we have a very clear plan as to what we can accomplish in that.
And so you kind of talked a lot about that in the league. How does that affect like the team on an international standpoint? You guys obviously had CCL and that went to FIFA Club World Cup, but like how you can compete with clubs outside of MLS?
Competing with clubs outside MLS it's a wonderful topic, and it's remarkably subjective. So it's a fun one to debate. I mean, the most simple form of decision making for professional athletes is generally, am I going to play? How much am I going to earn? And is the lifestyle going to be okay for me and my family if they have one? And those three topics in any given order are the three main topics. I think we tick the boxes. Quality of life in Seattle. You know, our guys are normal humans. They're treated as stars, but they're respected when they go out in public. They're not disrespected by the public in Seattle and the fan base. So that's a huge drawing point for us. In terms of salaries, we're getting more and more competitive across MLS internationally, but there's still several leagues that are astronomically paying their players more. And so sometimes it'll come down to one of these factors, sometimes it's a balance of all three. In terms of the competition, you know, the Sounders speak for itself, the success speaks for itself, and the truth is, these last 10 games matter when we're selling this club, because this is a club that's built on sustained excellence, not pockets of excellence. And last year certainly needs to prove to be a pocket of vulnerability, not of something that's going to happen over and over and over.
I wanted to bring it back to Paul really quickly. You said he fits well with the team. What qualities do you think he brings on and off the field specifically that will bring a positive impact to the first team?
He's a wonderful human. I mean, he's a great guy. He shows up to work every day. He's a little bit of a Christian Roldan mold where, you know, you kind of say, hey, run around the field, and he takes off sprinting. You go, no, just it's a warm-up job. So it's work ethic, it's what he brings, it's his consistency. You know, Paul's got room for improvement. We've talked to him about a lot of like some of those areas. But what Paul brings every day is a very specific level of performance that he never goes below. And that's his greatest strength, is consistency. So that's what he's being asked to do in the short run, and in the long run he'll be asked to improve in a couple key technical areas and tactical as well. But that comes with evolution of play.
Is there any position you're looking at him to play?
That I will leave to Brian to answer, but if you wanted me to speculate, I would say in the channels.
So Craig, we've had 3 weeks off from the last game. You know, you've been a player, you've been a coach. What does that time provide this group of players on the field and off the field?
You know, it's going to be interesting to see which teams benefit from the time off, which teams don't. We have a veteran core. We've talked about it a lot this year. Is a break good? No, winning games is good. And if we were winning games, we would still be playing. But our veterans are professional. I think the break probably rejuvenated their focus. It got them the time, the energy, the time with their families, the time individually to evaluate where they are and what these last 10 games mean. Veteran groups like ours tend to pull together when the calling comes, you know, and the phone's ringing. You know, I don't shy away from it. I said it a couple weeks ago. We're going to see what these last 10 games are, because there are some players out there that we pay to win us games, and we're going to find out if those players deliver in the last 10 games, and that's what we need.